Welcome to the podcast. This show is about the Real Estate Network Training Society community, also known as Rents. We're a diverse group of investors and our members range from beginners to seasoned pros. Rents is the only charity real estate education company in Canada, and we're here to help you on your journey to financial freedom using real estate. My name is Sam Perrin. I'm the president of Rents, and I'll be your host today. I'm a full-time real estate investor who's retired as a police officer at the age of 30 to spend more time with my family. Now I help people create passive income through real estate. As you'll see from the many stories shared on this show, there's lots of roads that will take you to your goals. When you hear the diverse experiences of our guests, I bet that you'll find a path that mirrors your own, and this will inspire you to take the actions needed to build your wealth too. When you become financially free, you're better positioned to make the world a better place. And that's what we're all about. You can send any questions or suggestions for the show to info@rents.website. That's info@rents.website. Enjoy the show. My guest today is Bernard Immel. Bernard and I have become friends through the Rents Club. And Bernard, normally you'll find him snuggling his cats on Facebook, but on the side he's a mortgage broker and a financial advisor. And Bernard made his start in the workforce as a laborer, and he had some jobs before that in high school, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into it. I guess I should start, Bernard, with just asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Sam. So I guess I'll give you the Coles notes here. I grew up in 100 Mile House. It's on the way to the Gold Rush Trail, if you don't know where that is. So I guess from an early age, I always wanted to follow the trail to the gold. So Barkerville is where the X marks the spot, by the way.
Oh yeah, Barkerville. Yeah.
So yeah, like I say, I grew up there. I went to high school. I worked in a customer service job there at Safeway. That actually taught me a lot about customer service. And in high school, I actually wanted to go to medical school. And so I loaded up on all my sciences, chemistry, physics, biology, calculus. But I actually came across a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
No kidding.
In the middle of my grade 12 year. So needless to say, on my second semester in grade 12, my grades just completely started dropping because I no longer had that same passion for the sciences, although I always will. But my gears kind of shifted, and I wanted to invest in real estate and do something entrepreneurial.
Yeah. That book has had such a profound impact on so many people, and really changes the conversation around financing and what is an asset, what's a liability.
Absolutely.
And just the basic stuff that we don't hear about in day-to-day life. I did not grow up wealthy, so I did not learn these lessons from my parents.
That's right.
Is that I don't know if that mirrors your
Absolutely, yeah. My parents both immigrated here. My dad immigrated from Germany, and my mom immigrated from the Philippines. And so it was kind of like winning the lottery for my mom to get here. And I'd say we were probably lower middle class growing up, like couldn't afford to play hockey or anything like that. All of our rich neighbors. Yeah,
well, you have a really cool middle name. I was trying to figure out. It looks like George on your wall here in your office.
It's that's German. It's Georg, so there's no E on the end. And thank God my parents, they named me Bernard, but originally it was going to be Bernhardt because that's the German way to say it.
Oh,
so
okay.
I kind of lucked out there. I dodged some bullying in school from that. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. So anyway, Rich Dad Poor Dad really changed the conversation for you, the way that you looked at life, and that made you decide that you wanted to go into a field to do with
real estate and investing and creating cash flow is the main thing.
Right.
Cash flow.
Yeah.
Passive income, right?
Right. But so right after high school, you had this labor job. How long were you at that for?
So before that, I moved to Kelowna. I worked at Cactus Club.
Oh, okay.
And I learned even more good customer service skills where we were the house of yes, and the customer always came first. Did business by referral, no advertising, anything like that.
Oh, okay.
And then I actually went to go buy my first house, and I didn't qualify for a mortgage. So anyway, from there, that's when I decided I was going to go up north and get that labor job. And I worked in a drilling company, just doing hard labor, 12 hours a day, so that on paper, my income showed what it needed to for me to purchase my first property.
Right.
And so that was it was a duplex in Brock here in Kamloops, and I bought that. I think it was I was 20, I think, when I first bought that.
Wow! So you bought your first property when you were 20 years old.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It was a grind, man. It was a grind. Everybody on the rig told me that I should go finance a big brand new truck, but hey, those lessons from Rich Dad Poor Dad were in my mind of, you want to stay away from buying the trinkets, things that don't produce cash flow for you, and you want to look for cash flow producing assets. So
tell me a little bit more about your family. You have siblings, or?
I have an older brother. He's actually works at the hospital here.
Oh, cool. He's
a registered nurse, and he's actually studying to take his MCAT, so I might end up living vicariously through him if he becomes a doctor. So,
oh, no kidding. Yeah, very cool.
And then so my biological mother, she lives in town here now as well, and my dad actually passed away when I was 11.
Oh, wow.
In school there. So, actually what happened was I ended up moving into a foster home, like around that age, 11, and my foster dad was a financial advisor.
Oh.
And so from him, I also started learning things about being self-employed and just working in finance. And I kind of fought him on coming into the family business and being an advisor. And out of the gate, I said, you know what? No, I'm more interested in real estate and cash flow. I'm going to be a mortgage broker. But then after he ended up actually passing away too, maybe 3-4 years ago. So after that happened, his business partner started enticing me that I needed to get dual licensed. And so, a couple of years ago now, I've been dual licensed on that side. So, so that's where I'm at now.
So you've been working hard growing the business. Wow. That's well. Thanks for sharing that. It's funny. Sometimes personal tragedy can really push us forward. You can use it as some people use it as an excuse for substance abuse or whatever, and then other people such as yourself. And I don't know if you got a chance to listen to Joe's talk on the podcast, but he's done the same thing where you use those experiences to propel you forward, instead of using it as an excuse to feel sorry for yourself, right? So anyway, good for you for doing that.
Yeah,
thanks for sharing.
Going through like foster care and everything like that. I guess I was supposed to be a statistic, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't hear this phrase until later on, but there's a phrase called "be the exception." And so I've just decided that I'm going to be the exception.
Wow.
And I've been listening to a lot of Grant Cardone lately. I think he's pretty funny. But another one thing that he says is, "Success is my duty." Success is my duty.
Success is your.
I've got a Grant Cardone sticker every morning when I wake up that says, "Success is my duty."
Yeah. He's extreme, but sometimes it's good to have an ear to the extreme, and there's you can pull some lessons from anywhere too. So he's I certainly have listened to my fair share of him too. So
10x baby, 10x.
Yeah, 10x. That's right. So you got into real estate investing at the age of 20. How did that turn out for you? Can you talk about that deal a little bit?
Yeah, so it was pretty good because I rented out the upstairs, and then I lived in the basement, and I got a roommate. And then I ended up living for free because now all the bills of the house were paid for, right?
Yeah.
And then so shortly after that, I moved out of the house and I replaced my room that I had and rented it to someone else. So then all of a sudden I was cash flowing $500 a month.
Wow.
So $6,000 a year in cash flow, and there was probably about $6,000 a year in principal pay down. So I kept that property for about 4 years. But I learned a lot of lessons in the fact that a rental property is a business, or rental properties are a business, right? And, me being 20-year-old I just barely scraped my down payment to get into that property.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the proper contingency
Right.
to back stuff that would happen, right?
Right.
So, I had problem tenants actually where one of them ended up going to jail, and then I couldn't find him, so I couldn't get the rent, obviously. So then I had to learn the residential tenancy about how I had to keep his belongings for a certain amount of time.
Right. Well, was he a roommate, or was he like...
No. After I had moved out.
I see, yeah. If they're a roommate, you don't need to do that.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyway.
right. If they're a roommate, no.
Yeah. But yeah, so you had to learn the law and how to...
I had to learn the law, and I think I kind of had a breaking point there where the hot water tank blew and flooded the entire basement.
Oh, no!
And, yeah. So then there was the other dynamic of managing, noise from upstairs with downstairs.
Yeah.
And trying to match those, like, lifestyle and personalities.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got kind of worn out by that. And the straw that broke the camel's back was that hot water tank flooding the entire basement.
So this led up to something. What did you do with the property?
So basically what I did was I completely renoed the entire property. Like, it actually would have been really good if I went back into renting it, but I was just it was emotionally drained from dealing with it.
Right.
So I got, new paint, new baseboards throughout,
Wow.
just all the cosmetic stuff, new light fixtures and everything like that. Just made sure all the doors were, like, good too. I think those were some of the main things.
Yeah.
And then I just listed it and I sold it. And yeah, one thing, I learned actually a good mortgage lesson there too, where I was in a fixed rate mortgage, and so I paid an interest rate differential penalty.
Oh.
So basically, that's higher than what it would have been for a 3-month interest penalty.
Of course, yeah.
Which is normally what you pay in a variable rate.
Yeah. So you were emotionally drained, no support.
That's right.
Nobody to talk to about it.
That's right. I didn't have rents. I didn't have my community.
Yeah, and then you sold it. So did you make any money on it?
If anything, it would have been slight because
But
I had CMHC on the way in.
Right.
I think I put 10% down.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of CMHC on the way in.
So you got your money back.
But exactly. And then on the way out, I had real estate fees and
So you didn't make millions. It wasn't a screaming success like some real estate deals are. But sometimes you have success and sometimes you learn.
That's right.
And it sounds like you learned a lot of great lessons. And really, it wasn't that bad of a deal. You lived for free, right?
That's right.
You lived for free for a period of time.
And I got to have the status of saying that I had a rental property.
Well,
when I
yeah.
was 20.
What age were you when you were dealing with all the problems?
Yeah, between 20 to 24.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I was in my early 20s. Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like, of course, I was renting to people who were way older than me, 10, 15 years older than me. Right?
Yeah, and they're probably thinking, oh, who's this kid?
Yeah, who's this kid?
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
I think I think that's awesome. So, so that was the beginnings of your real estate investment journey, and then you started the business.
That's
and
right.
Now you work as a mortgage broker and as a financial advisor. It sounds like I know you are very well qualified from looking at this wall full of degrees.
Just initials.
Well, it's important. There's a lot of education and a lot of education can be formal or informal. And to get one of these certificates, you really need to be able to have the focus and the ability to learn and apply the material. What I really like about your story, Bernard, can you talk about your chess championship?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So this was actually earlier in my life. I was a chess player, and I was kind of a mix of both, right? Because I was kind of a jock. I'd play on the rep soccer team. But then I also like to play my Magic cards and hang out with all the nerds, and I like playing chess too, right?
Wow, I played Magic cards.
So, it's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good mix of like strategy, and you can appreciate the artwork.
You know what?
Everything like that.
Do you still have yours?
I think they're back in 100 Mile. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I sold mine for $5,000 and bought my first vehicle with that.
Holy.
Yeah,
I should go back and try to sell mine and roll that into a real estate deal.
Yeah, you never know what they're worth. It's pretty amazing. So. But
yeah, so anyway, I became the chess champion of BC.
What?
It was in elementary school, but it was still
So you were the chess champion of 100 Mile.
That's right. Well, because we had regionals, and I remember in elementary we came to Kamloops.
Yeah.
And then I played a bunch of Kamloops kids, and I won the regionals.
How old were the Kamloops kids? Like Was it separated by grade or age group? Or?
There's two different divisions. There was a primary division, like grade 1 to 3, and then there's intermediate, grade 4 to 7.
Yeah.
And
where were you?
In my career, I mixed in both. I think in grade...
Where did you win the chess champion in BC?
I think it was when I was in grade 5.
So was that intermediate? So
you
were playing against kids a lot older than you?
In the regionals, I was. So I did win. I won both the primary and the intermediate division when I was in either of those divisions.
That is so cool.
On top of my grade division.
Yeah.
But then whoever won your individual grade there, you'd go to nationals and you'd play everybody else from all the other divisions or the other regions.
Yeah.
And then the winner of that got chosen to be on Team BC. Yeah. So you had one person from grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
on Team BC.
all the way up to grade 12.
Wow.
On Team BC. So it was pretty cool. I still think I have my Team BC shirt. It doesn't.
Do you have any photos? Do you have any photos? You got to post that on your wall. I think that's you got to put. That's good. You got to need a big picture of that blown up. Put right here.
That's true, actually. I do have a photo. Yeah.
That's so cool. So. Anyway, we kind of went on a tangent there. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the mortgage business. I mean, it's so important to have an expert in finances right now because the government over the last 10 years has changed the rules every year, sometimes twice a year, and it's almost daily or monthly that and then all the lenders are changing their rules too. So there's so many different layers of rules to keep track of. It's impossible for a layman or even a well-read.
Even for mortgage brokers, we're getting confused now, right?
Yeah, right. And so it's you really need somebody who's on top of the rules. And every time I see a headline that says more lending rules are changing. We know there's another change coming up in for January 1st that has to do with home buyers.
That's right. With who have 20% down or more. That's right.
Right. Yeah. The qualifying rate is changing. Anyway, there's always rules changing, and I guess what I want to ask you is some of the some specific questions. Like, does this mean the end for my career as a real estate investor? Am I still going to be able to find the money? What do the lending rules changing? What does that mean for us who are looking to buy more properties?
Well, my mentality is always, it is what it is. Let's just figure out how to deal with it and move on, right? So I guess I can give an example. I think the government already did an okay job of mitigating the affordability factors with the low rate environment. So, for example, in 2006, let's say the average rate was 5%, but you could stretch your loan over 40 years. And then you fast forward to 2016, the interest rate was about 2.5%, so half what it was 10 years ago. But the government had already pulled back their amortization from 40 back to 25 years. So the affordability was actually the same between 2006 and 2016. And so in last year, October 2016, is when the government decided that they were going to protect us from ourselves, right?
Right.
Although Canada already has some very stringent lending guidelines compared to the U.S., right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, we know that they desperately want to raise interest rates, but the fact is they can't, and that's why they're messing around with the mortgage rules constantly trying to. So, but that's interesting. That's interesting what you say, that the cost of borrowing hasn't really changed at all because the amortization has shrunk.
Exactly, the amortization shrunk, which, even though the interest rates were half as much, the amortization got pulled back, which effectively made your borrowing power the same. Which
actually makes it better for us as real estate investors because there's a lot more principal being paid on every payment, right?
Exactly, yeah. On that note, I like to write the contract at the longest amortization possible.
Yeah.
So that you have the benefit of the low payment. If anything were to happen, you can always drop it down.
Of course.
But then you always have the ability to go up if you want to be aggressive and pay down that mortgage, right?
Yeah, very smart.
But so now they've dropped in 2 stress tests, one last year, one this year. The short of it is last year, the one, if you had less than 20% down, they cut your borrowing power by 20%. And the one that's coming into effect January 1st, 2018, if you have 20% or more, they're going to reduce your borrowing power by 20%.
Okay.
So call it a fifth of the market is getting kind of chopped out. And I think the underlying reason why they're doing this is to try to control housing prices in Vancouver and Toronto.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is there's a lot of diverse, solid economies like Kamloops out there that don't need Big Brother over their shoulder.
Yeah, and this might actually hurt some of the people looking to buy houses, and they'll be forced to rent longer.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is
it's good for you as a landlord.
Well, yeah, it's too tight of a rental market is a problem as well. It because you as a landlord you want to be aggressive, but you don't want to you don't want to be pushing your rents up too fast, because if something changes, then all of a sudden all those renters go out and buy homes. Well, then you've got all these you've got an expectation of income at a certain level.
That's right.
And have it drop out. But I mean, that's your job as a landlord, is to figure that out. But yeah, we could potentially have less people, first-time homebuyer type people. Who are the people going to be affected mostly by these changes in lending rules?
Yeah, so the upcoming changes, it's basically going to affect people who are buying with 20% down. So whether you are buying a house for yourself or a rental property,
yeah,
it's going to affect people who are refinancing to consolidate debt.
Yeah.
Because they may have qualified for a $300,000 mortgage before.
Yeah. And
been able to pay out a bunch of their debt.
Yeah.
But now they only qualify for a $240,000 mortgage. So they can't roll in that student loan or that bad credit card debt or line of credit debt into their house, right?
Right. So this might actually hinder you from making a smart financial move.
Exactly, yeah. And the third one, too, is people who are refinancing to put a home equity line of credit on their house, which is typically what I like to do for any investor, because once you pay down some equity in your house and your house goes up in value, Rich Dad Poor Dad says pull that money out and use that as your down payment on the next house.
Yeah,
right?
put it to work. So okay, so I mean, ahead of that January 1st deadline, I imagine, have you seen quite an uptick in business since then, or?
We've actually made it our mantra. We look through our database, and we sent out a package to everybody that would affect the most, and we're sending out doing phone calls as well.
Oh, that's very good of you to do that.
Yeah, and I actually just filmed a little YouTube video. You can check it out on my page there. But
I'll link to it.
Talk about the changes then that too.
You know what? I'll link to it in the show notes.
Okay, awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah, that's really smart, because hey, who doesn't have some credit card debt at 20%? That, if you want to wipe that out, roll it into your mortgage payment, amortize it over time, it frees up a lot of cash flow that you can use for other purposes, so that you don't have to pay for the mistakes of accumulating maybe some bad debt in the past. But if you want to do that, you got to do it ahead of January 1st.
That's right, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, there's always going to be changes. That's why we got to be in constant conversation with, a mortgage broker like you. But just in general terms of things, how many mortgages can one person get?
So, as many as they want, I would say, right? There's a tipping point where you can stop getting it under your personal name, and then you have to start getting commercial mortgages.
Yeah.
And it gets treated as a business.
Okay.
Most lenders will look at that at 4 or 5 properties, and then they're like, okay, go get commercial financing now. Or, that's usually the tipping point.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, there's always, if I'm an investor and I want to be the exception.
That's right.
Have you seen anybody with more than 5 mortgages ever?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. We have clients with up to 10 properties at once.
In their personal names without a company? Or?
Yeah, that's right, in their personal names without a company.
Okay.
And usually what we'll do is we'll just spread that around to a couple of different lenders.
Right.
So that we're not hitting the maximum limit at each lender.
So does the order of the lenders you approach matter? Is there one lender that you would want to use them up first before you go on to another? Or
Well, so with some of the rule changes from last year, it actually affected us in where we're placing our rental business. The government kind of funneled us.
Because the monoline lenders are gone? Is that?
It's more difficult. It's more expensive for them to be in that space, in the rental space. So some of them don't.
Some of them have pulled out
anymore. That's right.
Okay. And so anyway, we could talk about the minutia of the lending environment, but that's your expertise, and I think it's best to.
One thing I would say is, there's pros and cons of a collateral charge. And so basically what a collateral charge does is it allows you to use the equity in your home as if it's a bank account. You throw extra money in there, you pull money out if you need to. And so if one is doing rental properties, like for example, a client who has 8 properties, ideally we want to have all their mortgages registered as a collateral charge.
Right.
So as the value goes up and as they pay down the mortgage, let's say they pay down the mortgage every year, $5,000, you just scoop up all that equity, there's $40,000, boom, there's your down payment on the next property that you're or part of your down payment.
It's a very useful tool for growth or for the inevitable repairs that come.
Exactly.
that new roof. All of a sudden you need $10,000, right? And unless you're very prudent and socking that money away, which a lot of people aren't. I know a lot of landlords run things pretty skinny. I know I did for a period of time as well. A tool like that is wonderful.
That's right. I definitely learned that from experience, right? I was
running
it pretty skinny in my early 20s.
You know how important it is.
Trying to start a business at the same time, so yeah, it was tough.
So here's a question from one of our members. So if I rent the rooms in my house to roommates, or like I have a basement suite and I rent that out, does having that extra income on my tax return, does that help me qualify for bigger mortgages or more mortgages? Is that a good thing to be doing that, or should I not bother renting out to roommates?
So the banks don't allow roommate rentals as income to help you qualify. They'll only allow income that comes from a completely separate suite.
Okay.
So some will want you to have that claimed on your income tax return, but some will be fine with just having a residential tenancy agreement in place, or you get an appraiser to go do a letter of economic rent, and then they would tell you how much that suite could rent for in that current market. Okay.
So if you have a completely separate unit, like a completely separate basement suite, or maybe you live in the basement and you rent the upstairs.
Yeah, that's right.
That income would help you qualify. So just off the top of your head, let's say you're living in the basement suite, you're renting the upstairs, you're getting $1,500 a month for the upstairs. So how much is that per year? 15 is, I don't know.
So basically, as a rule of thumb, for every, it's like $450 a month. Is equivalent to $100,000 of mortgage payment, right?
Wow, okay.
Qualifying room, right?
Wow.
So that $1,500, some lenders they won't allow you to use the upstairs. They'll make it look like you're in the upstairs and you have to use the downstairs income.
They want you to use most of the house for your own, for yourself.
Exactly.
I see. And you know what? That's probably prudent from a tax planning standpoint as well, because if you're using more than, if you're using to keep your principal residence exemption,
you have to use
capital gains exemption. The majority, the most of the house of your principal residence needs to be for principal residence use. So that's probably the banks are doing you a favor. But anyway, so every $450 equals $100,000.
Yeah, that's right. And they would only allow half of that rental income. So like, let's say for example, you have a basement suite. It's rented for $900 a month.
Yeah.
They would take half of that and add it into your income, so that would help you qualify for an extra $100,000.
Yeah, and do any of the lenders treat it differently than half? Some of them do the 80%.
That's right. Yeah. So this is where navigating through that fine print. It's so important to have an expert to find who's going to allow you to use more income.
Right.
There's so many different rules.
So basically rent your basement suite for $900. And that'll give you $450 the banks will count towards your income, and that'll give you another $100,000.
Exactly, yeah.
Gotcha.
As a general broad stroke. Like some lenders will be a little bit more, some will be a little bit less. Some will want a spreadsheet depending on how many other rental properties you have. Like
they want your rent rolls,
Yeah, so, and that's where we come into play, and we have to balance of the product that you're getting and the qualification. We have to balance of just making it fit, finding you the best product, but also making sure that the guidelines to get approved is going to fit for you.
Yeah. And so long as everything's disclosed, then to the banks, then they can make their decisions, and their underwriters can make their decisions, and
that's right.
And maybe help get a deal done. So it sounds like renting a part of your house is still not a bad idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you always should do that.
So is there any lenders that, like any of the banks that you don't work with, is it worth my time to have a relationship with a different like there's so many different banks. Do I need to have a relationship with all of the banks? Is there any, or like, would you ever point a client to say, hey, look, this bank that I don't work with has a better product for your needs? I think, because you're not just a mortgage broker, you're a financial planner too.
That's right.
So you probably put on your financial planner hat and say, hey, look, this is actually the best fit for you. This is what I advise as your financial advisor.
That's right.
Right?
So here's a good...
talk about that.
Yeah, so here's a good example. So I gave you the benefit of the collateral charge, where you can pull money in and out as if it was a bank account and equity in your house.
Yeah.
The bad part is, if you have a collateral charge with institution A, and say you also have a credit card with that institution, say you miss your credit card payment, that collateral charge is all encompassing, and they could technically foreclose on your house or start foreclosure proceedings because you missed a payment on a credit card or a car loan or some kind of loan that you have with them, right?
Yeah.
So what I generally recommend people do is have your mortgage with lender A, have your personal banking with lender B, and then if you have a business, have your business banking with lender C, and keep it separate, because you don't want those arms of the collateral charge to be able to reach you. Right. So then don't put your personal banking with the same company you have your mortgage, right?
Yeah, well, and, we all know that the banks make their decisions based on math and based on their business decisions. And if the lending environment gets really bad and they got to offload some debt, they got to close off some mortgages, how are they going to look to do that? Maybe they look for a loophole like this. Is it likely in our lending environment? But, look, this guy missed a credit card payment for $20. And we need to unload this $300,000 loan off our books.
Let's call it on demand.
Let's foreclose it. We can do it, right? And I mean that they would get a lot of negative media attention for doing something like that. But why? It's so smart. Why give the power to a big company who doesn't have your best interest at heart? They have their own bottom line best interest at heart.
Remember that a bank is a business that's in the game to earn profit for its shareholders.
Yes.
And so that's why it's so important to have a professional expert to help you navigate that fine print and use the fine print to your advantage. Let's get all the benefits of that collateral charge, but keep them at arm's length for them to have their benefits on us.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'd never thought of that.
No problem.
Okay. So, Bernard, I really admire this about you. Can you talk about your processes and your workflow? Because your system is so detailed, and you have such a huge amount of work that you do, and how you get through it. Can you tell us about that?
So I think I actually have a little bit of OCD, but
oh, that's good.
I'm originally I thought I was going to be the Wizard of Oz, but I've realized you still got to be there shaking hands and with the people that you're helping, right? So, basically, our whole office, we're completely paperless, and we have a procedure list from the time we have your phone number and your email address, all the way till you're getting a gift basket or some kind of a closing gift, right? And so our entire procedure list is all uploaded online, so that anybody from our team at any time can just look through that procedure list and see where we are in each file at any time and see what's next on that procedure list.
Yeah.
And so, like, a big thing for me is everything it's like McDonald's, right? McDonald's didn't become super successful because they made the best hamburger in town.
Right.
They became successful because you would get the same hamburger no matter where you went, because they had processes and systems. And so that's actually kind of funny, because one thing I always say to clients is, when they talk about shopping for rate, you can shop for the cheapest hamburger in town, but it might not have the best ingredients. Right. So that's kind of just a side note there.
Yeah. Well, getting the deal done is more important than, some people get all caught up on a point or 2 points on their interest rate. Anyway, that's another conversation. But so your process is very in depth. And when you were talking about being like the Wizard of Oz, you mean like you wanted to build the business and have it run by itself without you, basically.
That's right, yeah, because there's two... this comes back to, like, Robert Kiyosaki, the Four Quadrants, right?
Yeah, I'm not. You know what? I'm not very well read on Rich Dad. Like,
Oh, really? Okay.
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Yeah.
and I'm familiar with the Four Quadrants, but I really haven't read much of the stuff. So yeah, fill us in a little bit for those of us that don't know about the Four Quadrants.
So on the left side of the quadrant, there's the E and the S. So the E stands for employee, and basically you want to have security. You want to and you don't want to have any risk. So you want to be able to show up, and every 2 weeks you get a paycheck, right? For whatever task you've performed. The S quadrant is kind of like a specialist or a small business. And so a specialist, they take on way more risk, but they have way more reward. And their mantra is basically, how do I do as much work in this time period as possible and try to make as much money? But they also, so they have no ceiling like the employee might, but they also have no floor.
Okay.
So when you jump over to the right side of the quadrant, you have the B and the I. So B is like a big business. It would be like, say you owned McDonald's Corporation and you were just collecting franchise fees from, you've duplicated yourself, right?
Right.
Usually to be considered that, Robert Kiyosaki says, you want to have duplicated yourself 500 times, right? So the last quadrant is the I quadrant, and he calls that the investor quadrant. And I'm not talking like, oh, I'm going to put $100 a month into my RSP. He's talking like a sophisticated investor who's going to put $500,000 to a single investment at a single time, right? So the difference is, what's on the left side of that quadrant, you're earning money on a 1-to-1 ratio.
Right.
You trade a unit of time for a unit of money. And so that specialist can increase the value of his time,
right,
but he still has to be there to show up to perform the duties and the tasks
right,
of whatever that business may be, right?
Yeah.
And the employee has to go in there and trade their time for their money. And you can increase your value there as well, but you're still on a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
On the right side of the quadrant, you trade a unit of time and you build a system that eventually can run without you, and then you can always, of course, monitor the system.
Yes.
But then it's scalable. I'll give you an example of that. Let's say you made a video training course. You invested 1 unit of time to make that video training course, and now with technology, it's scalable, and you can just sell it over and over and over and over again, and earn extra return on that initial investment of the video. Right?
Yeah, well, I think what you're talking about here is really exemplified in the space that we're talking on in this podcast about real estate investing. You're purchasing a house.
That's right.
But you're not the one paying for it. Somebody else is paying for it. Your tenant, your customer, is paying for it. So you've now leveraged your money so that you don't have to work for the money that produces. And what you said about monitoring it is very important.
That's right.
If you're not supervising, then things can really fall off. That's a lesson that I've learned very recently because dealing with staff is relatively new to me. Over the last year and a bit, and you got to watch your staff just like you got to watch your rental properties.
That's right.
And I think that is really interesting what you say about the 4 quadrants and how trading time for dollars or trading 1 unit of time for X amount of dollars. There's always going to be a cap on your income because
you only have so much time.
Yeah, and what happens if you get sick?
That's right.
What happens if you can't work because of an injury? What happens if there's a tragedy in your life, in your family, and you don't have the emotional strength to keep going to work? So, I mean, I guess that's why a lot of people like to have a job because there's some benefits they get out of it. There's bereavement time and all that, but that's all dictated to you. You get 1 week off if your spouse dies, type thing, right?
That's right.
Like,
that's what happened in the RCMP. That's what the rule was.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the details. I forget the exact details of the plan, but I do know of a case where somebody in my old job, they were both members, and the husband got a terminal cancer. The man got a terminal cancer, and his wife used up all of her time, and then now she's using her sick time, and then she uses up all her holidays, and then she's got nothing less, and all of a sudden she has to take an unpaid leave to take care of her husband, right? And
that's right.
So, I mean, you have a few different choices. You can work, and this is what I've always said, and what you've clearly have figured out, because you're a sole proprietor, is you can work really, really hard at a job and building somebody else's business or providing a service, a service to our country. But the bottom line,
and there's nothing wrong with that. They may pay you very well.
Well, and you know what? It can be a really fun job. But I think the key word here is and. If you're gonna if you've got a good job, you need to add some real estate to it.
That's right.
Or add a small business on the side. And you don't just do this. You do this and
it's like,
and this.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you market? Do you market on Facebook or Instagram, or it's like both and.
Yeah. And there is limited resources, and we got to allocate them prudently. But
so that's basically where it boils down to in a nutshell is building a business. You can try to recreate the wheel every time and be kind of scatterbrained, or you can have clearly defined processes and systems, just like with a real estate business as well, right?
Yeah.
You probably have the same system for attracting those tenants, for managing those tenants, and dealing with any repairs and maintenance to the properties.
Yeah.
And actually, one cool thing that I've heard you do is you even continue on with that client relationship management, sending birthday cards and Christmas gifts and stuff like that. Because what was that quote you said? Your tenant is somebody who pays all the bills, does all the upkeep, does all the risk, and at the end leaves you with all the profits.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Closes up opens up the shop in the morning, closes it up at night.
They're the best business partner you could ever have. So you know what, Bernard, we're out of time here. I'm really looking forward to chatting more about Rich Dad stuff, because you're going to be hosting our Christmas party.
Oh,
right?
That's right, Christmas party at my office.
Yeah. So that'll
cash flow.
That'll come out. We'll play some cash flow, have some appies, probably have a drink or two, and really looking forward to chatting more, getting to know you more, and today was a great conversation.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me on the show. That was awesome.
We really, really appreciate your time. So, okay, until next time, we'll see you all you listeners later. Thanks. Have a great day.
Before we close the show, I just want to say that all the activities Rents undertakes, including this podcast, benefits our bursary program. We've given thousands in bursaries to post-secondary students in real estate-related fields of study. And in that light, I'm asking that wherever you're listening to this, please comment and let us know what you think, good or bad. You're also invited to our next meeting for free. You'll learn something new from one of our speakers and even have a chance to pitch your deal. Do you need cash? Are you looking for property to buy? Share what you're missing with the group and watch your business grow. At recent meetings, there was over $1,500 in finder's fees handed out just for providing a name and a number to someone who is selling a property. There's always at least $1 million in the room looking for the right opportunity, so this is your chance to pitch your deal. You never know where you're going to meet your next joint venture partner. If you're new to real estate investment, we want to hear from you too. You have unique talents and experiences that we can all benefit from, so please come share. You'll have the opportunity to learn the business and meet other like-minded people looking to make the world a better place. Remember that everything you want is in the hands of others, so come learn how to serve them. Lastly, we ask that you leave us a 5-star review. This will help others who need unbiased real estate education find us. To join us in person or online, please email info@rents.website. That's info@rents.website. See you next time.